So the Texas Suppressor lawsuit, which seeks to stop the NFA and ATF's regulation of suppressors, is now moving forward to be decided by a federal court. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think the NFA and GCA need to be done away with, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Sonoran Desert Institute. SDI is an accredited online college that helps students learn these skills and techniques that they'll need to be successful in the firearms industry. So if you enjoy gun repair, ballistics, and learning about firearms, SDI might be a good option for you. To find out more about SDI, you can visit the website linked down below, and thank you again SDI for sponsoring this video. How's it going, everyone? My name is Anthony Miranda. I am a licensed and practicing attorney in the state of California with an emphasis on Second Amendment rights. I've been part of Second Amendment litigation both at a state level and a national level, while serving as a staff attorney with the Firearms Policy Coalition legal team. My goal with these videos is not to provide you any legal advice, but instead to give you greater insight into the inner workings of Second Amendment litigation and what's currently going on in our battle for our rights to keep and bear arms. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video we'll be discussing the Texas Suppressor Freedom lawsuit, which aims to eliminate the NFA and ATF's regulation of suppressors. The case we'll be discussing in this video is Paxton v. Dettelbach. In this case, the ATF has filed their answer to the new complaint, and now the judge in this case has set the parties to finally meet before the court to decide if this case is going to be set for a trial or if the judge is going to decide this case on the briefs alone. This lawsuit arises out of the Texas House Bill 957, which passed last year. HB 957 aimed to exempt from federal regulation all suppressors that are made and remain within the state of Texas. HB 957 exempted silencers which are manufactured in Texas and which remain in Texas from federal firearms laws and regulations, including the federal registration requirements and taxation requirements under the NFA. This law that Texas passed requires that those suppressors made in Texas be actually stamped made in Texas, and it also bars all local agencies and law enforcement entities from enforcing inconsistent federal laws against Texas residents who purchase or sell these made in Texas suppressors. After Texas passed this law last year, the ATF sent out a letter essentially threatening that they will in fact enforce the NFA and GCA's regulations against anyone who made a Texas suppressor or who sold a Texas suppressor, and they will enforce it against anyone who buys or sells these items. After the ATF sent out that warning letter, the state of Texas then filed a lawsuit through their attorney general against the ATF, and they are now suing the ATF because of their regulation of made in Texas suppressors. In the original complaint, the state of Texas argued that federal regulation of these items that are made and stay within the state of Texas is not permitted since this law does not impact interstate commerce. They also argue that the federal regulation of these items by the ATF drastically impacts the Second Amendment, rights, and also allows for an impermissible tax on a right. In response to this lawsuit, the ATF then filed their first motion to dismiss this case. Subsequent to that motion to dismiss, the state of Texas then filed their first amended complaint and then asked the court to find that that motion to dismiss by the ATF was in fact moot, which ultimately the court agreed. But now the state of Texas filed a second amended complaint, and this amended complaint added in strong Second Amendment arguments using the Supreme Court's recent ruling in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin. Under the Bruin framework, the state of Texas is arguing that the ATF cannot prove that their regulation of made in Texas suppressors has any basis in history or tradition of the Second Amendment dating back to 1791. In response to that, the ATF tried their hand once again at a new motion to dismiss. In that recent motion to dismiss, the ATF argued that the Second Amendment is not implicated in this case at all because they argue that suppressors are not bearable arms and therefore are not protected from federal regulation. In that motion to dismiss, the ATF also rejected the historical analysis that the Supreme Court requires, and instead the ATF is still trying to claim that there is a long-standing history to support this type of regulation of suppressors. The ATF claimed that even if the Second Amendment applied to suppressors, the NFA in their eyes is a long-standing tax statute that has been repeatedly upheld under Congress's taxing power in the face of various Second Amendment challenges. So first, the ATF argued in their motion to dismiss that the text of the Second Amendment does not protect suppressors because they are not bearable arms useful for self-defense. And then they also say that even if the court finds that they are in fact protected by the text of the Second Amendment, the NFA's existence since the 1930s is a long-standing history which is sufficient enough to support their restrictions on suppressors. However, the court did not buy those arguments by the ATF and denied that second motion to dismiss. Therefore, the ATF had to file an answer in response to this case. The ATF in that answer walks out some new arguments for why they should win this case, and also they still are trying to argue that the Second Amendment and Bruin do not impact this case whatsoever. In the answer, the ATF claims that the individual plaintiffs lack standing to challenge the NFA's application and the requirements that are outlined in the NFA, and they claim that the plaintiffs in this case have never applied for, have never paid the $200 tax stamp, have never filed a Form 1 for these types of suppressors, and therefore they do not have standing. Here, the ATF is saying that these people would need to file a Form 1 with the ATF to express their intent to make a made in Texas suppressor, which the ATF has already sent out a public letter and said would be a crime. The other argument that the ATF makes in their answer is that the plaintiffs have failed to state a claim for relief under the text of the Second Amendment. They claim that the ATF's actions do not violate the text of the Second Amendment and that they have never violated the Second Amendment. Once again, the ATF is denying that their regulation of suppressors is impacted at all by the text of the Second Amendment, because in their eyes, suppressors are not bearable arms as mentioned in that text. The judge in this case has already rejected those types of arguments by the ATF. He's done that twice before in both of those motions to dismiss, and now he is also trying to push this case forward to be resolved as soon as possible. The wrinkle with that is that the court here believes that a full trial is not needed in this case, but instead that this case can be resolved on the briefs alone. The court had the parties file a joint report, and initially Texas wanted a 2-day bench trial before the judge, and they wanted that to take place in November. In response to that, the ATF said that they did not want this to go to a 2-day bench trial. Instead, they argued that they could win this case on the briefs alone, and therefore an in-person trial was not needed. The court ultimately agreed with the ATF and ordered the parties to set a schedule for the dispositive briefs and that a trial would not be needed to take place. That order of the court reads, "The court recognizes the importance of this case and desires to resolve the dispute in an expeditious manner. The issues before the court are seemingly comprised of only questions of law, and there does not appear to be any disputed factual matters or a need for factual discovery. Accordingly, the court issues this order to set a dispositive briefing schedule regarding plaintiff's prayer for injunctive relief." But the state of Texas actually wants a trial because they believe it will be better for their case. So they objected to that order by the court. So the court has now ordered the parties to come to the court, to come before the judge and argue their positions to the judge on what he should actually do. So both of these parties will go to the court and then will argue how this case should proceed forward. The state of Texas wants a 2-day bench trial, and the ATF wants this case to be resolved simply on the briefs alone. Really, the fastest thing would probably be just on the briefs alone, but strategically, it might be better for Texas to be able to actually present some factual matters, and it actually will probably hurt the ATF more to have to present some more factual information because, again, they would have to present a lot more evidence, tradition, history dating back to 1791 to justify what they're doing. So maybe that's a strategy that Texas wants because they really know that the ATF will struggle to do some of those things. But we will have to wait and see ultimately what the judge tries to do. So we should know very soon, maybe before the end of this week, if the Texas Suppressor Freedom case will be set for a trial or if the judge will set a briefing of this case and it will be decided on the briefs alone. So we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on this case. If I get any more information, I will let you all know. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of two-way news. Again, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation is built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.